Thanks everyone for coming out. My name is Ashley Deemer. I'm the Western Pennsylvania Director for Penn Environment. We're a statewide environmental nonprofit advocacy organization, and we work on protecting our air and water and our public spaces. We have a really great group of speakers today to talk about electric vehicles. We have Councilman Corey O'Connor. We have Krisha Kubiak from Duquesne Light. We have David Honorato from the Pittsburgh Parking Authority. So today, I'm going to give you a little primer on a report that Penn Environment is releasing about the growth of electric vehicle sales and the numbers of electric vehicles that we're going to see on the roads in the coming years. We see electric vehicles selling in record numbers, and we have projected that there will be about 9,000 electric vehicles on Pittsburgh's roads in the next few years. And they're popular. We know electric vehicles are coming. And we also know that there are policy implications to electric vehicles and that we need to prepare and make sure that we have the infrastructure, the charging infrastructure available to accommodate cars and their owners. So electric vehicle sales, I'll go through some numbers. Electric vehicle sales nationwide have increased 38% in 2016, and then another 32% in 2017. And we think that rise really reflects Americans' values. People are more concerned about air quality, they're more concerned about their climate burden and public health, and so we see a lot more of these cars on the road, and we also see the cost coming down. We also know that car manufacturers are more interested in electric vehicles these days. We see GM planning to launch 20 new electric vehicle models by 2023. Ford announced just last month that they're going to invest $11 billion into EVs, and they're going to have 40 models on the road by 2022. So many, many more choices for consumers in the coming years. And at the same time, we feel this report is really timely because we're at a moment when the Trump administration is really trying to undo some federal clean car standards. We know that these standards are critically important. They would protect our global warming they would reduce global warming pollution by 6 billion metric tons. These standards would cut our oil use by 12 billion barrels and save Americans up to $122 billion. So at this time when the administration is dismantling these common sense regulations, it's really critical that we double down as cities and localities in supporting clean cars. So the report is really a policy manual for decision makers at the local level, and it outlines some policy recommendations that elected officials can implement. And some of those things are already happening in Pittsburgh, and so our speakers are going to talk about that a little bit. The first priority that the report outlines is access to electric vehicle charging on residential streets. So we know a lot of folks in Pittsburgh don't have off-street parking, and we need to make charging infrastructure available. Some other cities across the world have made this happen. London, for example, can install chargers at light posts, which is great because those light posts are already wired for electricity. So really common sense thing there. We also want to make sure that folks continue to expand access to publicly available charging stations at parking garages in our business districts so that we're encouraging people to buy and use electric vehicles in our cities. And when we say we're encouraging people to use electric vehicles, it's because it improves air quality in our cities and really makes the city more livable for everyone. And finally, we want to incentivize people to use that by providing that charging free of charge. So making it really convenient and a much better financial choice for people as well. So those are our recommendations. We know that cities are also encouraging the electrification of public transportation, buses in particular, and car sharing services as well. So there are a lot of ideas in this report. I have an executive summary here for all of you, and the full report is online. Happy to talk to you more about that afterwards, but I don't want to take any more time because we do have some great speakers. So I'd like to introduce Councilman Corey O'Connor up first. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashley. Thank you, Ashley, for that great report. Obviously, this is an important issue in the city of Pittsburgh. As the mayor has mentioned, he has a goal of a 2030 plan that the city of Pittsburgh has to reach. And when you're talking about electronic vehicles, this is something that we're seeing a huge boost of not just in Pittsburgh, but as Ashley mentioned, across the country. So we as local officials really have to step up and set good policies so we can have more accessibility to electronic vehicles when we're talking about our infrastructure. So when you're talking about public infrastructure, when we make investments, we have to ensure that there are charging stations at key locations so more people use them. And then when you talk about new development that comes in to Pittsburgh and they're going to have a parking garage or they're going to do construction on their sidewalks, that's something that we have to emphasize, that electronic vehicles will have charging stations at those locations as well. And these policies need to be set by local municipalities because we're the ones that breathe in the air that the federal government sometimes forgets about. And I think that's why this is such an important policy discussion that we have to have locally in the city of Pittsburgh. So on behalf of the mayor, unfortunately he couldn't be here this morning, but I know he's very supportive of his 2030 plan, and there are some keys in this report that can help us get there. But I want to pass the mic off to David Honorato, who is the chair of the head of the parking authority in the city of Pittsburgh, and he'll tell you where some locations are and possibly what some plans will be in the future with regards to our parking authority. David.
Thank you, Councilman. And yes, on behalf of the mayor, we are on board with the 2030 vision, and currently today we have 11 EV charging stations. We have 3 single level 2 charger stations and 8 dual charging stations, controlling a total of 19 spaces in 2 garage facilities. The Grand Street Transportation Center has 4 spaces, and the First Avenue Garage has 15. We started to install these meters back in 2015 with the installation of 2 at First Avenue Garage and 2 dual chargers at the Grand Street Transportation Center. And with these, they ramped up and were used immediately on a daily basis, limited to 4. So we continued the process in 16, adding an additional 8 more EV charger stations, all at the First Avenue Garage, for a total of 15 spaces there now. With the utilization at Grand Street basically at 100% on a daily average, and at First Avenue, with the 15 spaces, we're on average about 85% utilization. With that, it's free charge for all authority patrons who park in our garage, so we're not charging them for the charge of their vehicles. We also see this continuing in the last group of EV chargers were purchased through the Alternative Fuel Incentive Program. And currently the city of Pittsburgh, working with us, and we're working with the city, they purchased 5 solar power units that'll cover 10 spaces. We'll be installing those in our Second Avenue lot sometime next month. And this will be the beginning of the city to be able to turn their current fleet into electric fleet and have them housed at our Second Avenue lot. And we'll continue to look at options going forward. Currently, we're in discussion with Tesla. They're very interested in putting a supercharger at a Shadyside garage and 2 additional chargers at a Smithfield Liberty garage. As part of the incentive from Tesla, they would cover the complete cost of the charging stations and the installations. So as we see the demand for this keep growing, we'll continue the process of looking where we can add additional charging stations in our garages. We're also in discussions to see if we can do some type of charging stations at the street meters we have. So with that, we'll continue our options going forward. Thank you.
And next we have Krisha Kubiak from the Duquesne Light Company.
Thanks. Good morning. Thank you for inviting Duquesne Light to this event. Electric vehicles is an important topic for our president, Rich Riazzi, but unfortunately he couldn't be here, but I'm glad that I can be. I want to share with you a little about our investment that we've made in electric vehicles for our own fleet. To date, we've added 8 Chevy Volts that our customer representatives drive around the city, in addition to 6 hybrid electric bucket trucks and 6 e-forklifts. And we've taken the pledge through the Edison Electric Institute to continue to add more units to our fleet every year. Like all of you, I'm a Pittsburgher, so I know the challenges of air quality living in the downtown, and that's why I'm especially excited about our bucket trucks. Our vehicles are out in Pittsburgh's neighborhoods every single day. When our crews are using the bucket to work on the lines, traditionally the truck has to continue to idle in order for the bucket to work. With the hybrids, the battery operates the bucket, meaning less emissions and less noise for the neighboring homes and businesses. And from a business perspective, it also saves fuel. In addition to adding vehicles to our own fleet, we've also surprised 3 area nonprofit organizations with a donation of a Chevy Volt to them. That includes the Veterans Leadership Program of Western PA, Community Human Services, and Northern Area Multi-Service Center. The interest in electric vehicles continues to grow. Over the past year, several major auto manufacturers have announced substantial investments to electrify their fleets. Ford and GM alone are expected to add more than 30 new EV vehicles over the next 5 years. The state released its annual report of registrations recently, and I was excited to see that electric vehicles ownership increased 35% in Allegheny County between 2016 and 2017. This is clearly a sector that will continue to grow, which is why the plan that is being released today is so timely. We are pleased to partner with Mayor Peduto and the City of Pittsburgh in the installation of its first EV chargers and look forward to continuing to partner on efforts. We also have helped out the Parking Authority on the newest parking garage on the North Shore with 2 DC fast chargers. And we continue to look for ways that we can help with the charging infrastructure in the City of Pittsburgh. Thank you. Thank you, Ashley.